And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Water planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal. Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange!
Orange 25! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. What is it? Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. Deep red. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
All right, folks. That little audio bar's jumping like it's supposed to be right now. John Galloway with NSF. Let me know if you can see and hear me. Got some other images behind me here as well, but I'm going to look over at chat and see if you've got any 5x5s for me to tell me that all the technology is working that brings the photons into the electrons that turn into, I guess, other photons that come out of your monitor and slap you in the face wherever you're watching from. I guess vibrate sound too for your ears. But anyways, it is Intrepid Museum's Astro live show. We do this once a month with Intrepid Museum. You'll get all sorts of different cool guests and stuff like that on the show. We talk to folks from NASA. We talk to folks that build satellites and rovers and operate cranes in space. I guess they're robotic arms in space. You know what I mean, though. Give me some 5x5s in chat. Looks like the audience is all here for us today because we have a very special event. You know, some of the shows we do on Sundays are actually our NSF Lives with the NSF crew, where we talk about the week in space, the events we've done, and that sort of stuff. And if you don't watch the live shows, maybe you've seen our This Week in Space episodes we put out every Friday, where in 10 minutes or so, you can get caught up on what happened in this week's space news. Well, this Sunday, I guess it was either just me doing the news. We figured we would tag in some friends of all the channels, Intrepid Museum and NSF here, because I've got two folks pictured behind me, Mr. Mike Massimino and Garrett Reisman, who are going to be helping us with the space news. I'm just here to do the introduction and let you know that the Astro Live events happen every month. I've already said that part. Sponsored by the grant from the New York Space Grant Consortium, awarded to Intrepid Museum. But I'm not going to talk about the news. Let's just turn it over to them and see what Mike and Garrett have to say about the news. Let's see here. Do we have everybody in? I see Mike. I see Garrett. Video working? It looks like it. Mike and Garrett, do y'all ever go on shows and it's like, all right, now we're going to do the litany of all the things that Mike's done in his life and all the things that Garrett's done in his life. And then 30 minutes later, because y'all have done so much, we can get on with the show. Chat, y'all know who these guys are, right? They can't answer us.
That's okay.
We have to supply the answer to them.
Yeah.
We won't hear them talk.
Yeah.
Anyways, two
Cool.
funny astronauts, two astronauts. How do y'all like that to be said? Former astronauts, retired astronauts, recovering astronauts? What do y'all say?
I think we'll say two funny astronauts if this turns out well.
If it turns out well.
Yeah.
If we're funny.
At the
If we're
end
funny.
of the show. Yeah, we'll come back and edit what y'all are at the end of the show and see how the
Right.
viewers
We
react to 'em.
haven't done an episode of Two Funny Astronauts in quite a while, Garrett.
I know, and I get lots of people complaining that,
I've
they want new
had
episodes.
all of the viewers, the 3 or 4 people that were watching.
Yeah.
Really, we had a lot of viewers. I get asked that pretty regularly. When we got, so this is another episode, sort of, that we haven't done one in, and it's got to be at least a year, right?
Oh yeah, I think even longer.
I think it was
Yeah.
2021 was the last one I saw. You'll have a YouTube
Holy
channel and like
cow.
podcast and all that stuff.
Well, that's when we
right?
did a bunch of them. I think we might have had one. I don't know.
Trickling
Anyway,
in. All
well,
right.
it's been a while, so
It has been a while, and we're still looking for a sponsor. So if anybody out there has got a lot of money that they, not even a lot of money, we don't need
A
much.
little
we
money.
don't even need. We don't need much.
We need
Well, hey,
All right,
how about,
yeah.
how
Well,
about
you
I
know, we
just
used to
turn it over
say
y'all?
what?
How about I
What's
just
that?
turn it over to y'all and let
Okay.
y'all go ahead with the show here?
Yeah, but I think before
All
we
right.
go any further, Garrett, getting back to this Too Funny Astronaut thing, we want to warn people that we're not claiming that we're funny, right?
no.
What are we claiming? What?
We're claiming that we're funny for astronauts, which is not
That's right.
saying much, really.
Hold us to that standard.
Yeah, not like that we're funny people.
Right. We're just funny for astronauts.
It's a really low bar.
There you go. That's what he's always said. Has a really low bar. Wow, we're right back into it now.
Yeah, it's like it's been over a year, but it's like we never left.
Yeah. Well, you've got a lot of interesting books behind you, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm reading all. My gosh, it's really.
One really interesting book
Mm-hmm.
that I'll tell you, it's right over here. You can't see it; it's just off the screen. Is your book? You came up with it.
Oh, yeah. My new
Moons,
one. You don't
right?
have my new one.
No, it's right here. I'm telling you, it's right.
Really?
It's right.
Here,
it's like
here you
right,
go.
just
That's
off
what
the
it looks
screen.
like.
It's like right. Oh, there it is.
Oh,
there.
Moonshot. Yeah,
Moonshot.
it's just there.
Tell us,
All
tell
right,
us
I
about-
got
tell
it.
us about the book.
That's my
Let's-
hint. I've got to send Garrett my new book. I don't think I've sent it to you yet, and it's I got to get that out to you.
It's all
Your
right.
own signed copy.
I'll buy a copy. I got book money.
You got book money. That's the thing.
Okay.
That's the thing we got. I really like that line. That's all right. I got book money. I can afford books.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's that. But you have a lot. I wasn't trying to get you to talk about my book by commenting on your books. I actually can see them very clearly. You have a very high def camera. I'm reading all this very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Very, very nice variety of things and some other cool things back there. So we should probably talk about something that's been going on for, it's been an exciting year since, however long it's been since we've done one of these, Garrett. But you have some very exciting news about what you did to report from just this past week, last week, a few days ago. Right? Why don't you tell us, what were you doing last week, Garrett?
Well, yeah, Friday. I just got back here to Los Angeles. I was in at the Cape for the Axiom 3 crew launch. This is the third private space flight up to the International Space Station. All three under the auspices of Axiom Space, using a SpaceX rocket, the Falcon 9 Dragon, launching friends of ours. This mission was commanded by Mike Lopez Alegria, who also commanded the very first Axiom mission. And in between, we had Axiom 2 commanded by Peggy Whitson, two very good friends of ours. And so Mike asked me to come down and be the crew family escort, which is, back during the shuttle days, we would regularly send astronauts down to be with the families during the launch and also during the landing and splashdown. In fact, you did this for my family.
I did it for a lot of flights. I did it for your family, and we have a whole episode from Two Funny Astronauts. I think the first one talking about your mom. How is your mom, by the way? Is she doing all right?
Yeah, she's doing,
Yeah. Okay.
she's doing
That
okay.
could mean so that means she's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
How old is your mom now, Garrett?
Now 82. She's 82.
That's nothing. My Uncle Romeo, I'm going to his birthday party next weekend. You ever met my Uncle Romeo, Garrett?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like 100 now, right?
101, baby. He's
101.
101 on Saturday.
Wow.
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
Happy birthday, Uncle Romeo. Let me say
I'll
that
let
right
him
now.
know. I'll let him know you said that.
That's
But okay,
fantastic.
so you were a family escort. Maybe we should explain a little bit about what's going on with these Axiom missions. What do you think? A little bit different. You say like these are actual private astronaut missions, where in the past, the first two of them, some rich dudes paid mainly, right? And then they had
Well,
some
the
Saudis
first one was a bunch of private individuals.
Right.
They each had significant net wealth, I
Right.
guess you could say. But the last two have been. The second one was kind of a mix. We had John Stoffer, who was also a private individual, but then we had two astronauts sponsored by their government, sovereign, what we call sovereign astronauts, to distinguish them from individuals that buy tickets. And they were both from Saudi Arabia, and they flew with Peggy. Now, this mission was what this cracked me up, by the way. You're going to like this.
Yeah.
This mission was they call it the All European mission. Okay, so all three of the so you have one of our friends, because one of the rules that NASA made is if you're going to send private individuals up to the space station, they need a chaperone. They need somebody who's been there before, understands the space station, and can mostly to make sure they don't bother the crew.
Right. An adult supervisor.
Some supervision.
A space babysitter.
Yeah. So
that's not really true. They have to have
shouldn't
one
be baby.
person. A chaperone, someone, a commander who's got experience, which is what you want in every mission, just about.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's their requirement. So Peggy and Mike have flown with these guys.
Right.
But on this mission, it was they got Mike Lopez Alegria, who, as you know, is a man's man, a man about town, a ladies' man, a international man of mystery, is how I like to describe the guy. And
there you have it in a nutshell.
That's right. Yeah. And he so the other three people, we had the very first Turkish astronaut, the very first person from Turkey to fly in space.
Very exciting.
Yeah, he was up there, and his family was very proud. And then we had only the second Swedish astronaut,
Right.
Marcus. He was up there.
Yeah,
and
Krista Fuglesang was on in my astronaut class.
That's right. I saw Krister.
Oh, how's he doing?
He was down there. He's doing great.
Oh, great.
He's looking good. I think he's moisturizing a lot. He's doing
Really?
well with that. Yeah.
Well, he's up there in Sweden. He's back in Sweden, I think, right? Did he
yeah,
tell you where
yeah,
he's
back
living?
in Sweden. Yeah,
he's moisturized. What does that mean? Was he sweating?
I mean, he's looking good. He's looking young.
He's looking good.
Youthful. I mean, he's very healthy. Yeah,
That cold weather they have up there.
I don't. Maybe it's something the water in Sweden. I don't know.
Well, no, he's one of my favorite people. He's a good guy, and the first, and my astronaut patch has a Swedish flag on it, as because one of the countries represented in my class. So this was the second guy, but he's also an ESA astronaut, though, right? Was he selected by ESA? This guy?
Yes. So this guy was selected by ESA, and so Alex
European Space Agency, I guess we should say.
European Space Agency. Yeah. Right. European Space.
So
so he was down, and the ESA guys, the European Space Agency guys, they were supporting him. But the kind of weird thing is that there's also an Italian astronaut.
Oh yeah,
Walter, right? So Walter's
great. Walter, I know. I'm friendly with Walter. Yeah,
Walter's a great guy.
Good guy. I like him.
And but he was sponsored by the Italian Air Force, or the
right?
Italian Space Agency, I guess, or
I
Italian
think
Air
it was
Force.
the Air Force, actually, Garrett. I don't think it was the.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the Air Force. So it's not ESA, right?
No, yeah, right. That's what I was going to ask. That's why I understood it. Yeah.
So you get the Italian guy, which I'm pretty sure is in Europe, but was not part of ESA. But then you have the Swedish guy, which I understand is also in Europe, but was actually supported by ESA. So it was very complicated. So we had Alex Gerst was down there, and he was supporting Marcus, and then. But I was there to help out with LA's family,
nice,
Alper's family, and with Walter's family. So I had them all. We got them all to the launch, and we all got together. We're all excited on the first launch attempt. We're getting into the vans. We're driving to the Cape, and we get a text from Mike LA that they were scrubbed.
What day was that? Was that Monday? When was the first attempt?
That first attempt was Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay.
It's past Wednesday.
Right. Okay. So then they gave it another day, right?
Yeah. So what we're gonna do?
What'd you do?
So then we decided to give them a tour. So Alex and I took the families around, and we went to the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building, the giant building where we put the Saturn V together, and where they're keeping the SLS these days. And we took them out to the pad.
Nice.
39A. Where
they don't get that launched as part of their festivities to begin with. I mean, isn't that something they should typically get?
Yeah, you think they would, but actually no. Now most of LA's guests, they had all seen this. This is like the guy's 20th launch or something.
Yeah, they get excited when he's on Earth. He spends more time. He spends more time in space than he does on Earth. He gets a patch when he's on Earth. When he's in space, he doesn't.
That's right.
Yeah,
he's got more Earth.
I used to say that to Mike Fall all the time. Remember that guy, Mike Fall? He was always going to space. That guy.
Yeah,
one of our American astronauts at NASA, but also from Britain.
Kind of American.
Yeah, he was a British naturalized citizen from England. All right, so where were we on this? This is all good, I think. Doss, are you still there?
I'm here.
Is anyone still listening? Did we lose them already?
Well, I got to tell you,
this is Deep Dark Secrets. All right, so you were giving him the tour of the pad.
Give him the tour, and so we go. And we go to the launch pad 39A. This is a historic launch pad where Apollo 11 launched from. Neil and Buzz and Mike Collins went to the moon, and we're out there. And more importantly, it's where STS-123 and 132 launched from.
109 and 125 as well.
Oh, okay. 125. Okay. Yeah, so it's a very historic pad.
It is.
STS-1, I suppose that was.
Those were our flights, folks. We were on those space flights.
That's right. Those were.
So we launched from 39. Wait a minute. 39A or 39B?
39A.
Which one is north?
B is north.
B is north.
I always remember it's Boston.
Right. Okay.
Right.
I think I might have been. I don't know where I was. Anyway. Yeah. So I was on A or B. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. I was on one of them.
You were definitely on A or B.
All right. Go ahead.
Anyway, A. So we go up to A, and the cool thing was, first of all, we had their rocket, which was in the vertical on the pad, ready to go, sitting there with their Dragon capsule up on top, and that was pretty cool to see it out there. But to me, what was even more impressive was they have now a launch tower out there for Starship.
Oh, where?
Right next to, like right over to the side on 39A, over to the side of where the launch tower and the launch pad is for that we launched from the shuttle. And the same, it was built originally for the Saturn V, and it's got that big tower and the Falcon 9 rocket sitting right there. There's two sitting right there next to the tower. And those things, you've been out there, you stare up at that tower, that thing is gargantuan. It's like, over 200 feet tall.
Yeah.
And it's huge, and it's always dominated that sky. And now you look over, and the Starship tower makes that thing look puny. I mean, I'm serious. It just dwarfs it. It's like,
so SpaceX built a pad there. They built another tower.
Yeah, because they plan eventually to launch Starship out of there too.
Nice.
I got this, y'all. I got this for you, but the tower is slightly shorter. This is the one at Starbase today. The tower is literally sticking up into the clouds. Give me 1 minute. Y'all keep talking. I'll get you the one at 39A.
Yeah, get a picture. I got it. Yeah, if you want, I put it on my Twitter. If you want to go look there, you can see I put it out there with the Falcon 9 right next to it.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. I'll get it for you.
So it was just staring up at that thing was just like it's just wow, what's coming next. And the other thing, just the whole Cape is really bustling. I mean, they got I drove by the Blue Origin facility down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
where they're making New Glenn.
Yeah, there used to be. I remember the last time. I can't imagine this being the case, but the last time I was at the Space Center for a launch anyway was when Megan MacArthur went to space. That was coming up on 3 years ago, and I was down there, spent a couple of days with my son. With Dan was with me, and I remember that space. A Blue Origin building was colossal, and it's gotten bigger. Apparently, you were telling me.
That's right. I mean, since the last time I've been down there, when I saw it last week, it looked like it had doubled in size.
Wow. Something's going on.
Yeah. And then we drove by Hangar X, where SpaceX keeps all the Falcon 9 boosters.
Is that down? That's at the foot of the launch pad? Is that where that is? Or is it somewhere else?
It's kind of, where the Eagle's Nest is that we always point out to the tourists?
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's the Eagle's Nest. Yeah. And
that's a tree, by the way, kids, and a real eagle's nest is in this tree.
That's right.
Yeah. So is it like an attraction to see? It's not like, a perch to look and spy on people. It's actual birds.
It's actual birds in the nest.
Yeah.
And
all right, so go ahead.
So it's kind of over there. Over there. So anyway, so we went there and we saw Hangar X, which I expected to see, but then behind it they have Hangar X2. They just built SpaceX built this giant facility. I think originally was intended to be the start of Starship production at the Cape, because Starship's so big you can't transport it. You got to build it at the launch site. And so I think that was the intent, but now I think they need it for Falcon 9, and they still have yet to build a ginormous. So anyway, the point is that I remember when we stopped flying the shuttle, everybody thought the Cape was just going to kind of wither and die.
Yeah.
And there were some visionaries that said, no, this commercial thing is going to be great. It's going to be a real shot in the arm, and it's going to be all for the better. And everybody's like, yeah, we've heard that before. That's a promise that's not going to be kept. But it really was kept. I mean, that was the cool thing about it, was just seeing all this development down at the Cape. And then you got all the Artemis stuff going on in the VAB and in 39B with their mobile launch platform, and you got Boeing Starliner being put together in the old shuttle hangar next to the VAB, and there we go.
As you say this stuff, I'm pointing this camera at what you're talking about, Garrett. Like, this is our camera over at the KSC press site. So there's 39B with the SLS stuff on it, but y'all were talking about the Starship Tower over here at 39A.
Yeah, so that's the mobile launch platform for the SLS rocket, the new moon rocket for Artemis, and then you pan to the right there, right there.
Yeah, we got
it. Look at that thing, Mike. Look at that thing. You see the thing on the left?
Yeah.
Shuttle launch tower, right? The black thing with the lightning thing. Did you see that giant thing on the right?
Yeah.
It makes it look puny, right? And by the way, that thing is actually a little further back, so the optical illusion.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably
working
a bit of
against you here.
Visual effect going on there.
They built that, and I think that's a new big LOX tank there.
Yep.
That's sitting next to it. So they're getting ready. And here's the thing. Do you know what's really crazy, Mike? You want to hear something really just nuts?
What's that?
You see at the bottom of that Starship Tower? Do you see there's like a little like a little bracket coming off the side?
Yeah, what's that?
Those are what we call the chopsticks. So those are two arms that can move up and down and in and out. And the idea, right there.
Yeah, they
are. The
idea
is that when it moves. They go up to the top of the tower, and when the first stage of the super heavy booster flies by, the plan is, and you can see the launch mount too, just underneath. You see those posts, right? So the plan is that when Starship super heavy booster flies back, that this Mechazilla giant chopstick thing is going to go up and grab it and catch it.
Wow.
And stick it right back on the launch platform, fuel it up, ready to go again.
Wow, that's great. How are you going to get it?
Underneath the grid fins, right?
That is great. How are they going to get it there in the first place?
I don't know.
Hey, this is Garrett. You're talking about the chopsticks and the OLM, the launch mount and stuff. This is a live view from Starbase down there from one of our Starbase cameras, showing the whole shooting match. You can't see the top of the tower because it's in the clouds, but there's the chopsticks. I got closer cameras, but it's raining out there today.
Snooping around at the workers down there.
Yeah.
Oh, you know how it is.
I mean, that's really cool, Garrett. I think that it's hard. I mean, I think it's hard to really express to the folks listening unless they've gone through this sort of, but just to share it with them of how the Cape was such a cool place to go when we were flying space shuttles. And then after the shuttle program, it really did take a hit. It just wasn't as much work there, but now it's back. It's just rocking down there again, probably more so than it ever has, because before it was just NASA doing stuff. And now you have these other companies that you've mentioned, a few of them down there. Yeah. So it's pretty exciting, I think, to be down there. Probably it's a happy place again, isn't it?
It really is. And, it wasn't that way in the beginning. It was very depressing, frankly.
Yeah, it wasn't good. The last few years we were astronauts back, when we were after the last shuttle flight until, when things started happening again. It really was different. All of our launches were taking place in Russia with our people. And, a couple unmanned, uncrewed missions were going up, satellite launches and that stuff, but still just wasn't the same as, sending people to space again and these other big rockets and everything else. And so we were talking about, I don't know if you want anything else you want to add about that, or you want to maybe talk a little bit about it.
Oh, I do want to tell you a story. So I was telling you about the European.
Yeah, your day off. Yeah. Okay.
You got the Italian, you got the Swede,
right?
You got the Turkish astronaut, right?
Right.
And then you get Mike L.A., right?
Yeah.
So Mike L.A., and he's representing Spain, I guess, right? So Mike L.A., they made a beer called El Comandante with him with the Spanish flag, and he's like doing this whole, and he's wearing on Axiom 1. He just wore an American flag because, by the way, he's an American citizen, right?
He went to the United States Naval Academy and was a NASA astronaut.
Navy
government
pilot.
Employee, military officer in the United States Navy.
U.S. Navy, exactly.
United States, yes.
Not the Spanish Navy, not the Armada.
That's right.
He wasn't in yes. So Armada. He's not a conquistador. He's one of our guys. So anyway,
those guys weren't good, by the way.
Nah. So he's over there and he's got the Spanish flag on this mission. He's got the Spanish flag and the American flag. He's got He's got an American here, Spanish there, I think.
Like he's setting sail for Queen Isabella.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they're making it. They're playing up the European missions as all European because there's Mike L.A. representing Spain. Yeah. And here's the thing about L.A. You know this. Not only was he a Navy pilot and a NASA astronaut and stuff, but the other thing is, where he grew up?
He grew up where did he grow up? Because he says Boston. Is that where he grew up?
No, he's got family back in Boston. But he grew up in the OC, right?
In the what?
Oh, no, that's a C.
Orange County?
OC, Orange County.
Really?
Mission Viejo.
Really?
It's a Spanish-sounding name, but that's where, I think he might have been born in Madrid, but he grew up in the OC. So I give him a hard time about that all the time because he's
his father was from Spain, I thought, right?
His father was legitimate.
Yeah,
Spain, yes,
and his
family, but he grew up in the OC, and he's making this big deal about being the Spaniard, right? And so then he comes off
a paycheck's a paycheck, Garrett.
Yes, yeah, I know, we all have our niche, I guess. So anyway, he comes off the helicopter. So the crew comes by a helicopter to the shuttle launch facility, the giant runway there at the Cape where we used to land the space shuttle. It's 15,000 feet long, this ridiculously huge runway.
Right.
and they bring this helicopter in with the crew, and they land, and I'm there with the families, right? So I got his immediate family, all the immediate families of each of the four guys.
Yeah.
And the Teslas are sitting there, they're getting ready to drive them to the pad, and they come out of the helicopter and they stand. And by the way, the press, and this is getting a lot of attention because in the Italian, Turkish, and Swedish press, this is a big deal.
Oh, sure.
Tons of them. And they come out of the helicopter and they're arrayed before us. It's standing in like echelon there, the four of them. And all of a sudden, Mike L.A., his phone rings. And he takes the call.
Yeah.
And we're like, what are you doing? Is your family saying goodbye before you launch into space, and you're taking a phone call, and he's got his phone up there, and he looks at us and he goes, it's the King of Spain. And it was. It was the King of Spain.
Did you answer? I didn't even know Spain still had a king.
No, they did.
There's a lot of royalty over there still in Europe. Wow.
Actually,
so the King of Spain calls him up.
King of Spain.
Wow.
The King of Spain calls him up, and what I did answer was, so after he hangs up the phone, I said, hey, it's good to be the king.
It's the King of Spain. Shush.
Yeah, it's the king.
That's pretty good.
Anyway, did you tell the king that you grew up in the OC? And he's like,
the OC. I never heard. You're out there in California. I didn't know it was called the OC. When did you discover this, that it was called the OC?
It was a TV show.
It was?
Yeah.
What was it, one of those housewife things or something?
Dats, back me up here. Help me out with you.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
Thanks.
I've never seen the gang sign sort of thrown up that way, but you know.
Wow.
OC. Yeah.
OC. I never. Well, what do I know? Well, that sounds pretty cool. So you're at that launch, and this is pretty significant. There was a lot of. We look back at this last year. We look at 2023, Garrett. There were over 100 launches, wasn't there last year? From the Cape.
There were almost 100 launches just by SpaceX.
Just by SpaceX, I think at over 90 and
close to like 2 a week. It's just insane cadence. And next year, I think their goal is to get to about 130 launches, which is
SpaceX alone.
Yeah,
and that's for Starlink and Starship and Falcon and all that stuff.
I think that was just Falcon launches. So Falcon and Falcon Heavy. I think they actually got the number. How many was it last year? Just under 100, right? And I think
it was over 90. I remember. I don't know if it was quite 100, but they had two like right in a row on the same day. I remember that was pretty cool.
Yep.
They had yeah, it's pretty amazing the pace that they got going down there.
Yeah, and the reusability is just they had one booster that got to 19. They used it 19 times.
Wow.
Single booster.
Amazing.
So yeah, and they're they keep pushing to go do even more. But it's good that I'm very happy about SpaceX's success. Mm-hmm. I worked there for 7 years, so I'm kind of biased. I love the guy, I love the company, I love the guys that work there. It's great, but I do think honestly, it's good for the country to have a little competition. So I was actually rooting hard for Vulcan to be successful. Yeah, and that was cool to see that.
And they just had a launch. They launched the that private moon spacecraft, right? Wasn't that what they launched?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Which it didn't end up that well for the space.
Oh, but the Vulcan worked well. That Vulcan is another from the United Launch Alliance, is another launch vehicle, another rocket. And so that's the other thing I thought we might talk about is what's going on with the moon, because that spaceship, that was the first attempt at a commercial landing on the moon. I guess we still haven't had one yet, right?
That was the first U.S. commercial attempt. So the Israelis had a couple. They had an attempt that didn't work out, and but this is the first U.S. commercial.
But I guess I'm saying is no commercial entity has pulled it off yet.
That's correct.
That true statement? But we've had two other countries in the past year that have landed a spacecraft on the moon.
That's right.
India. Mm-hmm. That was pretty bad. It was at the end of the summer, if I remember right. That was a big news, that one. Yeah, and in Japan, a little bit more under the radar. Japan, I thought we'd be hearing more about that. But they also made it, but I guess they had a little bit of trouble. They did land, though. But I think they were having a little trouble with the spaceship.
Successful soft landing. They became, the fifth country?
The fifth country.
So that was a huge accomplishment. Yeah. And it was a pinpoint landing, I think, very accurate.
Yeah.
And they did get the rovers out there, but I think they're having a little problem with the power generation at they're But that shouldn't in any way detract from incredibly successful mission.
Great accomplishment. And yeah, so now 5 countries, and a year ago there was only 3, and now there's 5 that have done it.
Yeah.
U.S., Soviet Union before Russia,
Mhm.
and then and China.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. And now we have a few more commercial attempts coming up. I think
China,
Intuit Machines.
you gotta give them some props because they put a rover on the far side.
Yes, right. And they put up a way to communicate with it.
Which we should educate everybody there. That's not the dark side.
Not the dark side.
Pink
The
Floyd.
far side.
Yes, it's the far side. So the
sun shines on it. It's just out. We can't see it from here.
Whenever we see the new moon where it's all dark and the moon is, you can't even see the moon in our sky. It's all dark. Guess what? The far side is all light. You know, that's why.
It's one of those amazing things. We've got an eclipse coming up this year, right? You know, that's going to, I mean, we've got eclipses all the time, but well, a couple a year, but this one's going to come across the United States, right? So,
right.
But the thing that is amazing how all that works out, you know, like the sun, even the eclipse, right? The moon is large enough, further enough away and large enough that compared to the sun that it perfectly blocks out the sun. You know, the alignment, the size and the alignment of it. And it orbits and it always shows the same, it orbits and rotates at the same speed so that it only shows that one side.
Yeah.
To us, that's why we call the other side the dark
far
side.
It's always
Far
showing,
side of
yeah,
the
the
moon
moon
more
always
closely.
presents the one, and you know why that is, by the way?
Tell me.
What?
Tell me.
Tell you. It's gravity gradient stabilized. So in other words,
Yes.
the moon is not the perfect sphere. So that the bulgy part of the moon is points towards the Earth because it's got a stronger gravitational pull.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
The way that all works out like that.
I don't know. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
It is pretty cool. All right. So what are we talking? We're talking about people going to the moon. So this is now we're gonna have another. I think Intuit Machines is the next one that's going to try a commercial flight there. I don't know. They were supposed to go like mid-February. I don't know if they decided to wait a little bit after what happened with the was it the Peregrine, the one from Pittsburgh, Astrobotics or something like that. I think the name of that company was. I might be messing that up, but I mean,
Astrobotics did the Peregrine
out of Pittsburgh. But so that's kind of interesting. And the U.S. Is going to with the Space Launch System. Now that's been delayed for another year, right? So those guys are going to be hanging around for a while.
Yeah, yep.
That crew,
Reed and his crew, they're going to be hanging out a little bit while. I don't think that was a big surprise. They have some pretty thorny technical challenges with their ride.
I think it's it was kind of shocking they were going to do it that quickly. And then we had some Starship launches last year.
Yeah.
And they were spectacular.
They sure were.
And they got more coming up, I would think, right?
Yeah. That thing's such a beast. I mean, you saw the launch tower there, you know? So the SLS was the most powerful rocket ever successfully flown.
Right.
And I think it has, Das, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it has 8.8 million pounds of thrust at launch. So from that,
do the calculation, Daz. Figure it out, will you?
Real quick on the fly. It depends on how many engines turn on when they launch it. That's how much thrust it has.
No. The SLS.
Oh, SLS. Yeah, SLS. All the engines turned on.
Yeah, they all turned on. I think I got it somewhere here. But anyway, they yeah, here it is. Hold on, I'll get you the right number here. 8.8 million pounds of thrust. So by that metric, it's the most powerful rocket. Now, the Saturn V still, I think, beats it as far as payload to orbit because as the current SLS, I think, has a bit underpowered upper stage. But anyway, they're trying to fix that. But the point is that it's a big rocket, and it finally broke the record that the Saturn V held in that regard. So Starship, you know, we talk about 8.8 being over about 1 million pounds more than the Saturn V. Starship, when it launches, if, as Das pointed out, that all the engines turn on, it happened the first time, but it happened the second time, all of them turn on, and that's 17 million pounds of thrust.
Wow.
Right?
You go somewhere with that.
It's like twice as powerful as the Saturn V. That's insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that theoretically, that would get like even some of these deep space probes that were, you know, that they have planned to go to Jupiter. You would get to Jupiter a lot faster with that spaceship. Could you do a direct route? You still, because like they launch these things to Jupiter and it takes like a decade for them to get there because they're coming back and forth
Yep.
They come back to Earth and swing around and get a gravity assist.
Mhm.
Would this help? Is that big enough to help with the unmanned missions to the solar system as well, outer solar system?
Yeah,
as well?
you have that amount of payload mass. You could launch a very large, upper stage, and then you could do it without all the slingshot complicated trajectories. So you
That
could
would
go
save a
from
lot of time, and you could send more stuff. I mean, the other thing is the size of the payload is compromised with a smaller rocket. You can't have everything on it that you want, so you
But
can
it's
put
really
more
designed-
stuff and send it more quickly. That'd be great for everybody. Yeah.
But it's really designed to throw the Starship itself. So the upper stage doubles as a spacecraft, and that's what we're going to use for Artemis 3 to actually land on the moon, and that got delayed too just recently because we got a lot closer. There's a lot of progress made between the first and second launch attempts of Starship, but they both at the end the result was the same, which was kaboom.
Okay. Let's straighten this out here. So we're talking Starship. Are you talking the launch vehicle and the spacecraft on top?
Yeah. So Starship
You just mentioned that the Starship is also what we call the vehicle on top, the spacecraft that will land on the moon.
We should clarify this because a lot of times we talk about Starship and meaning both stages. There it is. So what you're seeing right here is you're seeing the first stage, which is really the super heavy booster. Right up to see where those fins, right where that cursor was a second ago, right where those fins stick out, that's the beginning of Starship. And Starship is the upper stage and the spacecraft that sits on top of the super heavy booster. But a lot of times we refer to the whole thing as Starship, which is confusing, I know. But
so this is what's going to land people on the moon.
The upper part of that, right? Yeah, the lunar lander. That's the booster. Thank you, Das.
It took me a second.
You got it. And that's the Starship at the top. And that
he's like John Madden on a football game. What's that?
Yeah, I know. You need some more X's and O's.
Yeah.
So that thing's going to land on that's going to go all the way to the moon, Starship, and that's going to be the vehicle that brings the Artemis 3 crew down to the lunar surface.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there it
all
goes.
right. And then a lot. I mean, so there's a lot going on here. So that's what we're looking forward to this year. You think it'll probably be? We're not going to see Artemis go anywhere this year, coming in calendar year 2024. But
we got a couple other exciting things coming up. We got so we'll see more Starship launches, and hopefully they'll keep making progress, and hopefully get to orbit. They were so close. I think they were within 30 seconds or something of inserting stars. And you know what? What happened apparently that prevented Starship from getting into orbit was they didn't have a payload on that test flight, right? So you have to simulate that mass, so you can test like you fly.
Yeah.
And so what they did was they loaded extra liquid oxygen up there to simulate that they normally wouldn't carry, but just to simulate the mass of the payload. And then they had to get rid of it. So I think about 30 seconds before shutdown and orbital insertion, they vented all that liquid oxygen out.
Oh no!
And it went down into the engine with kaboom. And which the ironic thing is they didn't even have to do that. They could have just taken cement or something, or another Tesla. I don't know. They could have done something else.
Put another car in orbit.
So I'm pretty confident that they'll fix that real quick. And
when are they trying again? Do we know we can look forward to another one coming up soon? You think?
I think they said it as early as February, right, Des? Is that
shooting around mid-February is the best we know right now. Sort of tracking towards that. So we'll see if it happens. It's always 2 weeks away, right? But we're coming up on 2 weeks till mid-February.
That's amazing. I mean, usually, like you're saying, next Artemis might be in a couple of years. We're only waiting a couple of weeks for this other thing. So that's a nice pace.
Then we got the first flight of Dream Chaser on Vulcan. Will be the next Vulcan launch. Is going to take.
When is that? Do we know you have a date on that too, Garrett? Not that you should know all this, but I don't have. When is that coming in? That's uncrewed though, right?
That's uncrewed. Nobody's going to be in it, but and it's a cargo craft, so it's a part.
Is it going to station or where's it going? That thing?
Yeah, I think it's going to station.
So they are going to actually send it to station.
That's a good question. I'm not sure if the first one actually goes all the way in docks or not, or berths, I should say. I'm not sure about that.
And so that was Dream Chaser was up there with SpaceX and Orbital. What is it now? Orbital ATK or wherever the Northrop Grumman for the cargo contract, right? Oh no! Wait a minute for the for the commercial crew contract, right?
They were competing for commercial crew. That was one of the entrants.
Yeah.
They were one of our competitors. I was leading the proposal
Right.
team for SpaceX.
Well, that's why they won, but
That's right. So I'm a little biased here. The Dream Chaser, but they hung in there. I got to give them credit. They found a way to keep the program going.
yeah.
even-
So are they doing this on their own dime then, or are they? I can't
Oh,
imagine.
no. It's NASA brought him in as an on ramp to the commercial cargo resupply services, the CRS.
Okay.
Which is right now it's SpaceX and Cygnus, as you
Right.
mentioned.
Yeah.
And now they're bringing Dream
Dream Chaser for cargo.
I
But
gotta
that
be
thing-
careful. I'll be honest with you. So we're competitors, and there's always some good natured ribbing that goes on, at these things. And so we used to call it the Pipe Dream Chaser. It's not very nice. Not
That
very
isn't
nice at all.
that isn't nice. That's not nice at all.
But it's gonna happen. They're actually gonna launch it here coming up, and good for them. I'm happy to see that. Like I said, the more success in space, the better.
And that thing's going to come back and land on a runway at the Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah.
Is that how to get that back?
I think it's a plan for it to land at KSC, but I think it could land anywhere. I don't think it needs as big of a runway as a shuttle did. So I think
I wouldn't think
I
it's
remember
kinda little.
when we were competing with them, they were talking
Mm-hmm.
about bringing the crew straight back into Ellington Field in Houston.
Ooh.
Garrett, I got to get some Dream Chaser imagery on the screen here for you since you're such a fan.
So they so when are they going to put people inside of that and let one of our friends drive it who are working over there?
Well, that was the original idea, but they kind of turned it into a cargo version because that was their way to bring money in the door. But it's always a possibility that you could go back to the crew, and I think that was the plan for. They were partnered with Blue Origin for Orbital Reef, I think, and their plan was to use it to carry crew back and forth as well as cargo. So they certainly haven't given up on that.
And that's coming up in February. We think is that what everything's happening in February?
I think
what you
the
guys
second
mentioned?
Vulcan launch is that February or March, or it's coming up this.
Anyway, it's coming up like
spring.
first. So this is all exciting stuff that we've got coming up pretty early. And
Well, then there's Polaris Dawn, which is going to be the first EVA out of.
well, when are those guys going? What are they going to do?
They keep pushing that back too, but it's that's slated for I think this spring or summer. So and then there's the hopefully Sonny and Butch will finally fly.
I hope those guys
Starliner
get to go
this year too.
Isn't Spanky involved with that somehow?
Spanky, I think he came off of that. Maybe he might be commanding like the second Starliner. The first crew is going to be Butch and Sonny.
Okay, I hope they get to go
Yeah,
soon
They've been-
enough. You know,
they've been waiting a while, so it'd be good for them.
they're hanging in, man.
Yeah.
They hung in there a lot longer than you and I did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we saw, and Spanky man's in my class. Don Pettit is going.
Don Pettit is like, what's he like? He's like 90 years old now, right? What's he?
He's like my Uncle Romeo going to. No, he's got
No, he's not. That
Don is. I think I heard something where he's going to be turning. I don't know if this is true, but someone said he's going to be close to. He's a bit older than I am. He's like, I think he's in his late 60s already. So he may end up turning 70 in space, as someone told me.
Oh, wow.
So that's really quite a, if you think about it, I don't know, it's really changed a lot in the astronaut office, right? Where guys, they seem like, I don't know, but like the classes before ours, like the class of 92 and 90, those guys, they flew like 4 or 5 times, I think, pretty quickly. And then they got out of there like in 10 years, with 4 I mean, I don't think I'm exaggerating. They seem to fly a lot. And then our class came in the 96 class, and you guys 98 and so on. And it wasn't as many flights for us, it seemed, but but those guys are still there.
But we can't really complain because I think that's.
No,
why
I'm
they
not
hired-
complaining.
That's the only reason we got hired is because I hired so many.
Oh yeah, right. That's right. They're like, oh, we have too many astronauts. Oh no, you don't. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'd be doing something else.
That's right.
Open the floodgate, man. Yeah, let the people in. Yeah, no, it's a much better way to go. No, I'm just commenting that they've hung around a lot longer.
Yeah.
I don't. There was a couple out, but even like Jerry Ross. I mean, Jerry was selected maybe I think in 1980, and he left. Well, he was there over 20 years easily, right? But he must have left like in 20. Geez, how long was he there? 30 years. So maybe that's not that long. But my class arrived. It's going to be 28 years or Yeah, it's gonna be 28 years, and
96,
they're still
right?
there.
Yeah.
28 years this spring or this summer.
Yeah.
So anyway, so those guys keep flying. How did we get on that one?
You know, hey,
Yeah.
speaking of milestone and birthdays, you know, we got the Kelly twins, Mark and Scott Kelly,
Yeah.
turning 60, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're both
classmates.
going to their party
We're going.
next month.
Yeah.
I saw you on the RSVP list.
Yeah. I saw you as well. So yeah, I'm going to that. I think that should be fun.
I think it'd be great.
What are you going to get those guys?
I was just going to ask
anything?
you. What I was thinking of getting them the same thing I got last year, which was a gift card to Target. What are you going to get them?
I don't know. I think I saw a note saying they don't want, we just want you to come. Don't worry about bringing a gift or.
Give me your book.
Yeah. I've already sent it to Scott.
You did.
Scott actually gave me a quote for the back of it.
Oh.
There's a quote on the back of the book. So I've got quotes on the back from the book from Scott Kelly, Joe Torre, a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
William McCraven. Do you know this guy? Admiral McCraven?
Yeah. Admiral, yeah.
Great guy. And Mayim Bialik from the Big Bang Theory.
Oh my
Host
God.
of Jeopardy. So those are my 4. So I sent one to Scott already. And but he's got an early version of it because he gave me a quote for it. But yeah, that should be fun. We're all getting older, man.
Hey, if I would have known you get a free book, I would have given you a quote.
I'll give you a book anyway. Don't worry about it. I've got book money to cover.
It's right here. It's right. It's just off the. It's right there.
Yeah, no, don't even say. What is that? Thermodynamics or something like that. You'll scare people. I recognize a lot of those books as I'm looking around. It's pretty good. That engineering mechanics one just over your head. That one right behind. You see that thing behind the patch, sort of the brown one. No, keep going. Keep going. One more. That one.
Actually, Simone's. That's my wife's.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that was her.
Yeah, I remember. I think that's the same one I had when I was a sophomore at Columbia, and looking at that, I still get the shakes.
This is classic. You must have used this.
Oh yeah, the Astrodynamics book, Bate and the other guys. Yeah,
Mueller and White.
Yeah. That looks pretty new. Have you ever looked in that book?
Yeah,
doesn't look like anyone's read that one.
I got a couple copies of this actually. I got this recently. I got another one in my office.
Okay, yeah, I've got one of those, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
My first year in grad school, I got that one.
Yeah.
That's how you always tell if a book is useful. I think you look at if the binding of it is all worn up, worn down. Now kids don't even buy books.
No.
College students, I don't think they rent them or they get them online or something like that. So things are different now. But so where were we? We were saying a lot of interesting things coming up. And maybe we'll talk about one more thing or so, and then we'll go.
Also, I got another question about the Kelly party. You think that?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. What's that?
So I'm looking forward to it. There's going to be a lot of fun people there, and
yeah.
But I'm just wondering, do you think they're going to have a bounce house? Because I really hope. Because that was fun. The last one they had one. That was great.
There's a story there that you stumbled on that you don't even know.
Really?
Scott Kelly came over I think it was. Like one of my kids, it must have been Daniel's like 3rd or 4th birthday. And so Scott came by with his girls. He had 2 daughters and I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up. Mark has the 2 daughters. Scott came over with Samantha, his oldest kid. And so anyway, so he comes over and they had the bouncy. And so he and I go in there with the kids.
Oh no.
And the thing starts wobbling. The kids are really smart. So they get out of there. He and I start wrestling in the thing, and it tips. And we're like stuck underneath this thing with the thing, the air machine's still going. So, but that apparently, my daughter and I were out in San Francisco, and Scott was there. Scott and I were doing a talk at the same thing. We went out to dinner with him and his wife, and she was saying, "My memory of you that I'll always have," he says to Scott, "is you and my dad trapped, in the bouncy machine because you guys were like fighting because we started like screwing around in there. So if they have one, that'll be fun.
I hope next month that we get. I would love to get to see that a reenactment. That'd be fantastic.
That was also a line we used, Garrett, in one of our very first performances. 2 funny astronauts. Do you remember this? The astronaut reunion of 2002 or 2000, not even 2002. The astronaut reunion of 2000. we were saying we both were unflown, and we started. I think you wrote to a friend of yours that wrote jokes or something like this.
Oh my goodness, I forgot all about this. But you're
This is
right.
a long time ago, man. It's 24 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So I remember. So you and I get Charlie Precourt, who I just heard from this weekend. He sent me a note
Huh.
to see what was going on. Charlie Precourt was the chief of the office, and he wanted me to do some funny stuff. And I was like, I don't want to. I mean, I'll do it, but I need some help. So I recruited you, and
That's
you and
right.
I went out there and did a little bit. And one of the things we said were like something about we want to go to space so we can find out if it's flat or round. And Charlie Precourt says the Earth's round, guys. And we go, how do you know that? We're all kidding around here, by the way, Dots. This wasn't a serious
Boy,
conversation.
you're
Right.
gonna go viral.
We had like I remember there was like
Astronaut says that the Earth is flat.
no, we were just joking around. But like Buzz Aldrin is there. Remember all the Buzz Aldrin was at this thing, and sitting right in front of all the old guys are right in front of us. Now we're the old guy. At least I'm the old guy. But Buzz Aldrin and Scott Carpenter was there. Those guys were still alive back then. They're all at this party, and you and I are trying to entertain him. And so Precourt goes, I go, how do you know it's round? He goes, because I've seen it from space. And then we went into, oh, yeah, there you flown guys go. I know this and that because I've flown in space. You don't know anything. And then we went into a bouncy thing. Yeah, so they have the bouncy over at the Ballooner Festival, and we were bouncing up and down on the moon bouncer. And Buzz Aldrin comes and says, yeah, that's all right, but it's not like being on the real moon. Remember that line, Garrett?
Yeah, I can't believe you remember all this.
There's a lot. Das had no idea that we were going to be talking about those bouncy things. But so the Kelly Brothers party should be pretty good.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you there. Maybe we can we should do another one of these, Das, after the party. Let you know what happened.
Oh, I bet we get some good material from that.
Hey,
Yeah,
I'm
that'll
game.
be good.
Happy to support.
That'll be a good party. And then, is there anything else you want to say about that, Garrett? I had one other question for you.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
So, well, you do a lot of interesting things, and one of the things you mentioned to me, and one of my students, and now our friend Drew Foystel as well, is working for one of these commercial. You want to talk about that, right? You're okay with?
Yeah. That'd be we
One of
should
these. So what's going on, which is kind of cool, is all related to a lot of things we've been talking about, is the commercialization of low Earth orbit, which the Axiom flight is a commercial flight, is a private astronaut flight, but it's a commercial flight for commercial enterprise primarily, right? There's all those companies those countries that do anyway. So, but we're trying to turn the low Earth orbit into a commercial enterprise, correct? And Axiom is one of those companies that's doing it.
Mhm.
How many are there, by the way, now? How many officially are in the game?
There's at least 1, 2, 3, at least 4 companies serious about
Who do we got?
making a commercial space station. So we
got
got
Axiom,
Axiom with
Orbital Reef.
Orbital Reef, and then you
Are
got
you looking this up? Are you Googling this right now? It looks like you're looking at your computer.
No, I'm trying to think. I'm trying
All right,
to
okay.
think.
All
So,
right,
but
that's why we
there's
have you. We have Orbital Reef. Who's that? Is that Blue
it's
Origin?
complicated because they just consolidated.
It is
So I think
complicated.
Northrop Grumman ended their project or joined up with NanoRacks and Voyager. Is it? There's another NanoRacks led effort.
Okay.
So I think NASA awarded contracts for development of a commercial low Earth orbit destinations. And I know that so Axiom has their own contract that's kind of separate because they plan to start out attached to the ISS,
Right.
and then when ISS is done, they plan to separate and have their own space station. So they have a different plan. But then there's these other companies, Blue Origin and others and Sierra. I think they're teamed up with Orbital Reef, and then you got the NanoRacks, and I think they're teamed up with Lockheed or Northrop. I always confuse those two. I'm sorry. And then
it's Vast.
And then there's VAST, which is with the company I'm working with.
That's when you and Drew and one of my students, Tycho Bogdanovich. Did you run into him? You didn't run into him. He was out at Vast over the summer.
Yeah.
And I told him to be on the lookout, but I don't think he had a chance to come. I think he saw you or wasn't able to come by and say hi.
I went by. Yeah, there's VAST on the screen there, and VAST is working. And VAST, we hope to be the first. So we got a good relationship with SpaceX, who's pointing out there. But VAST has this Haven 1. There's a picture of it right
I got
there.
Yep, there you go.
Haven 1. So and we want to get this thing up in space by 2025, I think. So it's
Are they building it? Are you guys actually?
yeah.
metal?
It's we're doing component testing and
Who's making it for you, Garrett? Are you guys is Vast making it in house, or are they going to the Italians?
no, the primary structure and everything Vast is making in house. There are components that we're acquiring, like the propulsion. We're getting from a company called Impulse Space that is actually led by Tom Mueller, who's a former SpaceX, one of the founders of SpaceX.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a lot of SpaceX invest, I gotta tell you. Like that's how I got involved, because one of my former SpaceX employees in my group had a question for me about that window, and so I gave him some suggestions, and she passed it on. I guess they liked my suggestions, and they said, "Hey, how about you come and be an advisor?" And so I'm on this advisory team, and then Drew just joined recently, and he's there too.
Yeah.
So we're working down there trying to get them ready to fly. And the other thing that's cool about VAST is the plan is eventually to spin not only the spin this one, but only at a very slow rotation to get a fraction of a G. But then eventually the follow-on to this is a much more ambitious space station. That's what we call the stick. It's this big thing that's starship diameter size, and it tumbles over like a baton. So you get up to 1 G at the ends, and then you can have a continuous variation in gravity level as you go towards the center, all the way down to 0. So that's what that's what.
All right. So I just want to clarify one thing. I said the Italians making it for you. They made a lot of pressurized volumes, right, for the space station. Alinea in Italy has done this. I've gotten guys, so I thought maybe you guys were working with them.
No, but Axiom. So they're building
it for Axiom. Yeah. All right. So I have a couple questions for you. If you show that picture again, that thing looks about the same size as a space station, the diameter of it anyway, as a space station module. And from what I remember, what I thought was the reason the space station was that diameter was because it needed to fit in the payload bay of the shuttle.
Yep.
Is that, or is there something, or is it the same diameter, or is that bigger?
It's about the same, and its size. Yeah, there you go. Good job, Des. It has to fit in the fairing of the Falcon. So
okay, so that's why it's that size.
It's determined by that, which is roughly equivalent to the shuttle payload base. So yeah.
So so then this other ginormous one that sounds like something out of the 2000 movie, right? 2001, sorry, the Space Odyssey movie. How big is that? Like, what's the diameter of that thing?
Yes, maybe you can find a picture of it on that. It should be on that same site, I think. But it's so that's that one we need Starship to be able to launch that one. So
and then it's way
too big to fit under the fairing of the Falcon.
How's
but
that?
in order for it to generate that much,
check that out.
And that thing rotates.
Yeah.
So how big are we talking? Are we talking a couple hundred yards, or from end to end of that thing, or
100 meters?
Yeah, website says 100 meters from end to end, I think. 100-meter long spinning
so about the size of the length of the space station.
Correct. Yeah,
but it moves.
The same length as the ISS, but it rotates. Yeah. Yep.
And so the gravity is that for the health of the crew, or is there another reason for it?
So the nice thing is about this. So one is its health. So you can avoid a lot of the countermeasures that we currently do to prevent muscle loss and bone muscle atrophy and bone loss, and also things like the SANS, the issue we're having with vision deterioration due to being micro, and other things that are popping up, like the possibility of reverse vascular flow and thrombosis. We've had problems with that. So there's a lot of things. If we can get a little artificial gravity going, might be able to solve a lot of these problems.
Yeah.
And not only that, but you can actually have a cup of coffee, which would be nice too, right? Although I guess Don Pettit figured out how to.
If you're a coffee drinker, Pettit has a 0G coffee cup. But
I still think you have to hold that thing really carefully, right? I mean, it'd be nice to be able to, and also be nice to take that cup of coffee and put it down. Right. So you can do that.
Garrett, which way does this thing spin? Does it spin this way, or does it spin this way, or like it spins flat with the solar panels?
That's a preliminary design. I'm not sure exactly. I think it spins in the plane of the solar panels.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to spin like a frisbee, right? If you just rotate it, do a roll with the cabinet, it's not gonna
You
help
wouldn't
you.
get anything. Yeah. It says it's
I think-
7 Starship launches to put this thing up.
Yeah,
The
but
website.
those Starship launches are going to be dirt cheap. So that's a great thing. No, I mean, really, this is the kind of cool thing about Starship is that it enables stuff like this, because if it does achieve promise, so if Starship will be the first 100% reusable. So Falcon 9, we still throw away the upper stage. The shuttle, we threw away the external tank. So Starship is supposed to be 100%.
Yeah.
And if it achieves that and it's affordable, then the price per kilogram could drop down to the hundreds of dollars. I think Elon was quoted as saying like $10, but even if it could achieve like
Let's go, Garrett.
a couple hundred, that's amazing.
But
I mean, look, the shuttle, it costs like 60 some odd $1,000 per kilogram to launch something on the shuttle.
Well, I was going to say the other thing, Garrett, you could say, the shuttle was reusable, but not very efficiently reusable. I mean, they had to go send, right? I mean, this thing you say now is going to come back to the launch pad, which is over the top, return, right? But the shuttle, they had to send a crew of people out there on a boat to go pick up the solid rockets and bring them back to and they were out there for a long, this thing wasn't just, this was way out there. They had to go out there days ahead of time, right? And
not only that, but did you ever see like the videos of those scuba divers that had to go and put the plug in?
Yeah, they had to go in there and float it.
And this giant solid rocket boosters going up and down in the waves, and they're like getting hit on the head. I mean, that was like super hazardous.
And I'm sure there was a requirement for the weather out there that could defer a launch, if it had a typhoon going on. Anyway, so then they had to come back to the Cape with those things. Then they put them on a train. I rode on that train. They put them on a train and shipped them out to Utah on a train, and they get repacked in Utah, and then turned back around on the train to come back to the Cape. So it was reusable, but that's not like the thing was coming back and you put gas back in it. And then the shuttle was reusable, yes, but it was also much more complicated than what you have going on with the Dragon, right? So it took a lot of time to process it to get it going.
All that maintenance in between flights.
Yeah, unbelievable. Right.
It never achieved affordable reusability, So
that's what I mean. That wasn't efficient. So it's not just that it was reusable, which was a good first step, but now I think again it's more. Look at those guys out there.
It's like a big cork that they shoved
in
the bottom.
I got the scuba diver video for you.
That's pretty
check
cool.
that out. Look at those guys.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, we've been going for about an hour here, it looks like. Das, you got anybody wants to ask us questions? Or Garrett, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, you haven't told us about your book. I keep trying to get you to talk about the book.
Here it is. So this is
Tell us about the book.
Right here, this is it. It's called a NASA Astronaut's Guide to Achieving the Impossible by me. And it's stories, it's a bunch of stories that lessons, kind of like lessons learned. Sort of is intended to be like a motivational, self-help, inspirational kind of book that it really was my agent's idea. I wanted to write a funny book. You and I have talked about that. My agent said, I don't think that's a good idea. And I said, all right, how about a kid's book? I haven't written one of those yet. And he said, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Well, what do you think? And he said, I think you should read Admiral McRaven's Make Your Bed and see if you have stories that relate to that. Like, self-help kind of leadership, teamwork, that kind of stuff. So there's 10 chapters, each one with a theme. And then at the end of each chapter, there's like kind of summary points to it. So it's intended to be helpful, about not persistence. And so the first chapter is called 1 out of a million is not zero. As long as you try, there's a chance, more or less. So that's that. And there's a chapter on teamwork, on trust, on communication, and so on. So that's what the book is.
Give me a sample, if you could, like a short, like an anecdote that illustrates one of these principles.
Yeah, I was thinking of there's some funny stuff in there, but I don't know if they're necessarily really the principles. So I guess let me think of one. There's a story that I tell in there about teamwork. that remember we had to take that swim test before we could go off to swim training and to survival training in Florida, Pensacola.
Yeah.
So we had to pass that swim test, and I was not a very strong swimmer. So I remember I got that letter in the mail. You know, they say that, and they said, please practice your swim skills. I'm like, oh, crap. But luckily, I was already accepted as an astronaut, and they did not ask us whether or not we could swim during the interview. So I was like very happy about that. At least they didn't give us the swim test as part of selection. I think they just assumed that you could swim. You know, it's like, can you make a grilled cheese sandwich? You know, we don't have to ask that. You know, there's certain life skills, like riding a bike, that you should know, right? So, so I was like very happy that there was no swim test as part of selection, but I was also somewhat horrified that I was going to have to embarrass myself in the water. So I practiced as much as I could getting ready for this, but I was still like, you know, this is one of the first things we did as a, you know, that you had to pass that swim test. So for those listeners out there that are wondering, the reason we had to pass the swim test was in order to go to water survival training with the Navy. And we needed to go to water survival training because the aircraft we were going to fly in, the T-38, had an ejection seat. And if you bailed out over the ocean, I need to sneeze. Yeah, excuse me. If you bailed out over the ocean.
If you bail over the ocean, you need to sneeze?
Need to sneeze, then that's okay. But if you bailed out over the ocean, you might end up, you know, you're going to end up in the water, and you have to learn how to survive in the water. And also the shuttle had a bailout scenario for aborts that, you know, if you ended up in the water, you needed to survive in the water until they can come get you and save you from this thing that you had, from ejecting out of the airplane or jumping out of the shuttle or whatever. So in order to go through that course with the Navy, you had to pass a swim test. And apparently people would show up at NASA without good swim skills, and they'd send them to the Navy, and the Navy sent them back and said, teach them to swim before they drown. So you had to have this proficiency. And so I practiced, but I still wasn't feeling good about it. And when I showed up, because, here I'm coming in as a civilian like you were, all these high performing military people, and it's like, oh man, what's going to happen? So I think it was like at the end of our first week, and we were getting ready to start, really get into our training the second week. And Jeff Ashby comes in. He was our class sponsor, Jeff from a previous class. He says, all right, I want to remind everyone that we're going to start our training next week, and the first thing we're going to do is the swim test. And I was like, oh man, all the things. So can't we have a math quiz? Why does it have to be the swim test is the first thing we're going to do? And then he goes on and it's going to be on Monday, right? We're not wasting any time with this. So he said, all right, then, because they wanted to get us to those survival schools. That's one of the first things we did, right? So anyway, so he goes, who are the strong swimmers in this group? And we had Heidi Piper, who was a Navy diver.
Yep.
And Laurel Clark was also a Navy diver. Mm-hmm. Piers Sellers raised his hand. He did. He learned to swim very, the English way. When he was a lad in one of those fancy schools in England, they taught him how to swim, with the breaststroke very easily. So
swim across the channel.
He could do that. The way he did it, you could. It would take you a couple days, but he'd be able to do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so they raise their hands, and then Ashby goes, okay, who are the weak swimmers in this group? Don't lie. We need to know. So I raised my hand, and surprisingly, so did Charles Kamada.
Oh, really?
Charlie Kamada. Yeah, the two of us. Charlie grew up in Queens, and we didn't go in the water where we grew up. We're not going to go in the water around New York City. Do you remember we were at the Intrepid one time, which we're doing this show for, and we look over the side of the boat, and you see the people in kayaks out there, and you go, are those people nuts? I go, why is that? As they fall in that river. Do you remember that?
I remember you look at them and like you were like,
people out of their minds. They don't go in the water.
Get them out of there.
Right.
Throw them a life preserver.
Right. Get them out. What are they doing in there? Are they nuts? They're going to get splashed with water and get tetanus.
Yeah.
So we didn't go in the water when I grew up. Neither did Charlie. And so we both raised our hands. And so then Jeff went on to say, okay, everyone else who didn't raise their hand can go home for the weekend, but the strong swimmers and the weak swimmers are going to stay after class. And you're going to arrange a time to meet at a pool on Saturday, over the weekend. And the strong swimmers are going to help the weak swimmers, because when we go to the pool on Monday, we don't want anyone to leave that pool until everyone passes the test.
So Piers was your instructor?
Piers was one of the people I'd volunteered to help.
Oh, he was so nice.
Yeah. He and like I said, we had some of these guys already with the Navy qual. I think Dan Burbank, Coast Guard guy.
Yeah.
So, but then we all showed up on Monday and we got through. But the point is, when you need help, when when you can give help, you give it, right? But
Yep.
also when you need help, I learned it was important to speak up, because if you're trying to hide, I'm not good at something, and then, that surfaces at the wrong time, that's not good either. And so there was never any, I felt never really any shame at saying that you needed help, because everyone's going to need help with something.
That's right.
So that was, that's one of the chapters, for example, one of the stories.
That's a great lesson. That's a great story too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
So,
real
There's
quick.
more. There's more in here. There's
Real
all
quick,
kinds- Yep.
we got that link, Mike, pinned in chat. So folks that are watching the show right now, or if you're watching afterwards, we've got the link. You can click on it right there. I want to put it in chat a few more times, and you'll know I'm gonna look at the number of people who click on this, and I'm gonna go back and try to look cool to Mike and be like, hey, Mike, this many people clicked the link. So if you get the link in chat there, click on it real quick. Go check it out. There is a link that you can go check out Mike's book. We've got it pinned up there. There we go. They're seeing it all in chat right now.
Thank you. Very kind.
Yeah, head on over to check that out, y'all. And the more people that click on it, the cooler I'll look to Mike later.
You're already looking cool, Daz. They're not gonna. This isn't
doing
gonna
great.
make a difference. You're just a cool guy.
I just want him to click the link, Mike.
So, but well, thanks for mentioning that, Garrett. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then
No,
with you, what's going on? You've got another season of For All Mankind coming out. What else? What's exciting?
Oh,
going
that's
on with you?
exciting. Yeah. So
What's going on with you?
We just
What are you
aired the
working on?
finale of the final episode of season 4. Just aired not too long ago. So hope some of you guys out there watched it and enjoyed it.
Tell us about your role in that show, because I'm sure a lot of the folks here watch that show.
I'm the technical advisor, so if you have issues about the Delta V required to push that asteroid in season 4, you can complain to me, and I'll explain to you the difference between Hollywood and reality. But anyway, it's a lot of fun to work on that show, because they do really care about trying to remain grounded and show a future in space that is plausible. It's actually the past. It's weird. So it's an alternate history. The idea is that the Soviets land a man on the moon first. So Alexei Leonov is the first man on the moon, not Neil Armstrong. And then everything diverges from actual history from that point. And that's like the butterfly effect. And we see a whole different future or a whole different course of history. And so I think we're in 2003 or 2004 in the current episode, in the current season. And I'm happy to tell you we're working on season 5. So I was just in the writer's room last week working on concepts and ideas for season 5. So we're going ahead, and it's going to be pretty cool where we're taking the show. I can't give you any spoilers or anything, but I think for those of you that are fans of the show, hopefully you're going to really enjoy the next season. It's going to be kind of cool.
So Garrett, your role in this, you are the tech advisor for this, which is a pretty big role, right?
Yeah.
And I know you enjoy doing that.
It's fun. It's kind of I get to touch or be part of all different aspects of the production. I get to be in the writer's room. I meet with the cast. I work with the stunt guys, the VFX guys. I review all the scripts. I even get calls from like hair and makeup. They have questions, and which I'm not really that qualified for, but it's
what's the VFX guys? Is that visual effects?
Visual effects, yeah. So we get a lot of really. We have very talented. Got this guy Chris Red, who's an incredibly talented. I'm sorry, Jay Red. I said Chris. Jay Red. He's a very talented computer effects specialist, and they do great work. And I work with the costume designer Esther Marquis. And so I actually got her a job at Axiom. She designed the cover layer for their spacesuit, and then she designed the flight suits that you saw the Axiom 3 wear.
Very nice.
3 crew wear. So we've got some crossover there.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. And is that the same? There was are they the same outfit that made the SpaceX spacesuit as well?
No.
Is that different?
That's different. That's different.
No, when I was on the Big Bang Theory, we wore a replica of the launch suit. What's the matter with me? Not the
Aces. The Aces.
No, the Russian one.
You're in the Soyuz. Yeah, Sokol.
Yeah. So and I thought it was a Hollywood group that I thought it also made. They said they had done some work with SpaceX, but that's not the thing I wanted to say is that people ask me all the time if I watch that show, right? And I was like, yeah, and I know the guy that that is responsible for everything. First, I make sure that they like the show. So, do you like the show? And they all say yes. And then I tell them, well, my friend Garrett is involved. Do people come up to you a lot and ask you if they've seen the show? And then you say yes, and I'm responsible.
I do get that.
Yeah.
have you, there's a show I'm watching. You should watch it. I'm like, yeah, I've
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. What? Anything else you want to tell people about? I mean, that's very exciting. Anything else?
Oh,
want to
you know,
plug?
another thing we should mention is we just a couple weeks ago raised the external tank here at the California
Oh,
Science
yes.
for
Yeah.
Endeavor, and we stacked it up with the solid rocket booster. So
Wow.
the plan with Endeavor is to display her in the launch position with the solid rocket boosters, the big orange tank, and then Endeavor on the side, just like she was on the launch pad.
Yeah.
And so far, we've got the 2 solid rocket boosters standing up. We got the big orange tank in the middle. The very next step, which is coming up here in just about another week, we plan to lift Endeavor herself and put her onto the stack there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it going to be covered? It's not going to be out in the weather, is it? Are you going to be able to cover it too?
You know, they've already wrapped it up in plastic. There's the external tank coming in. Check that out. Isn't that cool? That's a time lapse, obviously.
But are you putting a building around it or something, or what are you doing?
So the thing is that what they have to do is stack it all up and then build the building around it.
Wow.
Once the building is built, there's no way to get the Endeavor inside.
There we
go.
That's the one I was looking for right there.
Oh, there we go. Check that out. So
wow, that's pretty cool.
So we got so I was out there when we started lifting the external tank, and hopefully I'll be able to be out there when we lift up.
Very exciting.
In another week, so pretty cool. But she's all wrapped up in saran wrap, so it's gonna look a little funny.
That's a nice touch. Yeah, we're both lucky. We're affiliated with 2 places, the Intrepid Museum and the California Science Center, that have space shuttles. Because and then the Air and Space Museum and Kennedy Space Center is where the others are. Yeah, so that'll be really cool when you guys get that.
When we come out to DC for the Kelly's party in a couple of weeks, I'm bringing my son Buster, and we're
is that right?
Yeah,
You're bringing Buster to the party?
He's been to all these museums, but he's never been to the National Air and Space Museum.
They got a new Apollo exhibit there.
Yeah,
they're doing a lot of work there. You may want to call ahead of time. Yeah, I was just down there, and it's kind of strange. Like you just don't walk in at least they weren't doing this in December. Do you know about this?
Yeah, we got a reservation.
Yeah, you got to get a reservation. I don't know if you have to, but it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, you just can't walk in the building
Yeah. So we can do that we can go there on Sunday, the day after the party, and then on Monday we're going to go to Udvar Hazy and see Discovery and all the other vehicles.
Oh, that'll be great.
The problem is
they've got. I saw their new Apollo exhibit. I think you'll like that too. They're doing a lot of work in that museum.
Yeah. So and he's like, Dad, I need at least a week at each of those.
Wow.
And I'm like,
all right, so my son and I have been to those places. It's been, how old is Buster now? Is he 10 years old?
Just turned 13.
13, God in heaven. All right, so so I think the first time or maybe the last time we were there he was about that age. He was about 14. I don't think we've been there together since. But he just when I was there in December, goes, we got to go there together. So we're looking for an opportunity to go as well.
Yeah.
To go because he wants to see. He's doing some research now, moon related stuff. So.
I remember making my first trip down there when I was 13, and this is why I say when I talk about the California Science Center and Intrepid, how important these museums are, because I remember going down there, and we were supposed to have an hour to see the whole thing.
Yeah,
and after an hour, I met my family, and we were we're gonna meet under the Wright Flyer.
Yeah,
after an hour. I'm like, come on! I've only made it a quarter of the way through one room.
Not even, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm staying the whole trip. I'm staying here.
Yeah.
And they were cool. They went off and they were like, well, we're supposed to go see the Lincoln Memorial, and I'm like, sorry, and I still haven't seen the Lincoln Memorial. I hear
still there.
I can still see it. Yeah. So they came back after the end of the day, and I'm like, I got to come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
They brought me back the next day.
Yeah, I was like that. I didn't get there until I was in I was after college. Is the first time I went. Might have been the first time I went to Washington D.C. We didn't go very many places, even though I didn't grow up that far away. Yeah. But no, what a great place. And you're right. I think what I did in New York City growing up. Outside of the city, but I went to when I was little. I begged my parents to take me to the planetarium, to the American Museum of Natural History. And then Intrepid came on board. I think it was 1981 or 82 is when Intrepid started. Das is probably searching that. But I remember going there as a college student with a group of, I was a big brother and so was a lot of my friends for a bunch of little, younger people. And we took them there on a field trip. That was the first time I was at Intrepid. So that was a great place that young people could go and still is, to learn and dream about stuff. So, yeah, it's great. So, we want to, what else you got? Do we want to go to see if there's a question or two from the audience or?
Yeah, we only
got
got time left.
We got about 8 minutes left.
Yeah, I got a couple questions if y'all want me to toss a couple questions in.
Go ahead.
One of them, thanks for tuning in today. How much fun are these? Wait, I don't think that's a question. How much fun are these guys? Chat, how much fun are these guys? Have y'all been having fun with the show today? Let us know what y'all think. Mike and Garrett here, just talking about cool stuff. An actual question here. Was there a thing, Mike, a training thing in the NBL when there was a light that was not working or something? You were talking about pools, and people in chat were saying, oh, yeah, Mike, and swimming in lights. Was there a thing about the NBL and a light not working?
I think what that person is referring to was there was a PBS program that came out, a documentary. I think it was called like Hubble's Amazing Rescue.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? I think that's what they're referring to. And in that, there was the filmmaker, and we were good friends. And what's the matter? I'm not remembering his name right here, but really good guy. And I hope I can remember his name. Daz, help me out.
Filmmaker, I don't know.
Look at a producer for a Hubble's Amazing Rescue on PBS, please, if you don't mind.
I'm on it.
All right, thank you. But just a great guy. Anyway, they had access to. They would watch our runs. That part of it, they followed us through our training, and they got a lot of the film and part of it. Part of the issue was that I think this person is referring to, because that's how you would find out about it by watching the show, is that I was having trouble with a light on the end of a power tool, and was saying how we needed the light. We don't have the light. I can't. And so that's probably what they're talking about. So we there was a new power tool that was created for our flight. It was called the mini power tool. So Garrett, compared to I don't know if you've ever seen this thing, but compared to the PGT, which you're very familiar with.
Yep.
This one was really high speed. It go about 300 RPM. It had a light on it. It had an adjustable trigger. It was really slick. It was kind of like a power tool you would get at the hardware store, kind of really sleek and cool looking. Mm-hmm. You get a good feel for it. So I think that's what that person's referring to.
Gotcha. I got the Nova producer Rush Denoyer.
Rush Limbaugh. Yeah, you're not Rush Limbaugh. Rush Denoyer, right?
Yeah, Denoyer.
Rush
you got
Denoyer,
it.
Yeah. Rush,
there you go.
Great guy.
Ooh.
Yeah, Rush was a great guy. And so he put that together. So I was complaining a lot. I was embarrassed by that because the footage he took, it was the day I was complaining. Not that I complain all the time, but there are times I don't complain, but he put that in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I was complaining about the light, which I think probably why that person remembers it.
Remembers that specifically. Gotcha. Yep. All right. Hey, here's a question. This one's come through from quite a few different people. Where are y'all in space? Like, would either of y'all hop back in a Dragon capsule or Dreamcase or whatever and go back to space? Or are y'all happy on the ground now? Mike, how about you first?
I live on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I don't want to go anywhere. I mean, this is nice over here. I don't, I think, I thought about this. I would love to go back, but I think really I would need a reason to go back. Like if there was, and I'm very grateful for the opportunities I had, but if there was, a mission where I would have some sort of, I think something I felt was really important, whether that even be outreach or an opportunity to do something that that maybe I knew something. If it was like another mission to Hubble, I'd count me in for that. I would do that. Or if there was something special about what I could do. But I think I would need like a real reason to go, because it's a big commitment. I mean, I'm not thinking of you just going up for 5 minutes and you show up one day and you fly the next. But I'm thinking more like a mission. And I think if it was something that I felt was important that I could contribute to, I would love to go again, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Garrett, what about you?
I don't need much of a reason. I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
I think with all these new commercial opportunities, with like Vast, with Axiom and everything, there's always new possibilities. You see like LA and Peggy going, and
Yeah.
I think in the in the right circumstances, I would be very, if somebody came to me, like I was joking around there. I got this question a lot down at the Cape last week by the families and stuff. They're like, would you want to do this? And I said, look, if LA comes out of that helicopter and sprains his ankle on his way to the launch pad, and they're looking around like, hey, we need need somebody to jump in. I'll go. Yeah. I'll hop right in. That's fine. But yeah, we both got pretty good gigs going on here in Mass. I think we're pretty comfortable. But I think given the right opportunity, and I'm doing this stuff with Vast and Axiom and stuff and SpaceX. And I remember telling Elon Musk this. I said, I'm not here because I want to find a way back to space. Yeah. If I wanted to fly in space again, if that's what it was all about, I could have just stayed at NASA.
Yeah.
And there I could have flown on the Soyuz, gone back to the space station.
Yep.
But there's an opportunity cost there. There's other things to do, and that's why I went to SpaceX, was to try to help them be successful. Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do with Vast and everybody else. So I'm happy doing that. If an opportunity comes up, I'm not going to say no, but I'm also not like angling for it and trying real hard to make it happen. So
yeah, I think we feel similarly about it. If it was something, if someone offered to me, I would not turn it down. But like you're right. I think becoming a NASA astronaut took so much time and work. It was a long road. I think longer for me than you. I think you were 30 years old when you were picked, or 29, or how old? You were pretty young.
I think I was 90. So I was 30 in like a couple months. So just after my 30th birthday.
Yeah. So I was 33. How old was I? I was 33, close to being 34, which was pretty young. I mean, for me as well, right? So, and you picked a couple years after I was, but that there's a lot that goes in there, and there's a lot of training, and if you want to do it right, I'm not talking about like an amusement park ride, go up and float around for 4 minutes, but to actually do a mission is going to require a lot of time, and I think if it's handed to me, I mean, I'll say yes, but I don't know if putting the effort in to try to scheme or, figure out, like John Glenn, when he went back.
Oh, yeah.
John Glenn went back, but John Glenn did a lot of paperwork to go back to space.
He did.
He had to come up with the reason why. And it was a biomedical thing. And, that's a lot of, it's like, you've done a little bit of acting, right? You were on on your show, The For All Mankind. And
yeah.
And I'm going to be in a movie coming out, I think. I filmed this thing over a year ago. It's called Space Cadet.
Oh, yeah?
It's supposed to be coming out. I'm in this movie. And
I didn't know about that.
I do things once in a while. I do things. But I remember I was on 7 episodes of that Big Bang Theory, right? And I wanted to, someone said to me, you should do more acting. And I said, really? I can't do any. I'm not an actor. I just do me. He goes, that's good enough. He said, well, you could be. I go, what else can I do? I'd be sorry. He goes, you could be a judge. The guy told me you could be a cop. Judge. He didn't say I could be a mafia guy. He left that out. I could be a criminal. And I go, all right. So I asked my agent, I said, hey, what about this acting? Maybe I could do some more acting. He goes, oh, if you want, I can get you some, auditions. I'm going to go, what? And he goes, you go there and you stand in line, you do an audition. I go, to hell with it. If someone comes to me and said, we want you to, what I mean? It's like, he goes, well, you could, I'm not going, no. So I think that's like an indication. Someone hands it to me, like, hey, Mike, you want to go? I think. But, to try to figure out how to do it, I don't know.
Yeah, Chad over here wants to nominate you for one of these. Have you heard of the private Hubble rescue missions, the proposed private Hubble rescue missions? To go back and reboost or fix the Hubble or something. You're talking about relevant skills. That's like a relevant skill.
No, I would do that in a heartbeat. Yeah, no, I would do that. I think I never had a chance. I went to the space station in make-believe on the Big Bang Theory, so I never got to do that as part of my career at NASA. So I would love to do that. But at the same point, because I haven't gone, I couldn't fulfill the same role like Garrett could, because Garrett was actually there. So I would be a new guy on the space station. So
there you go.
But yeah,
the job requirement says like wanted, must have experience repairing Hubble Space Telescope, and you're like, oh, hey, wait.
Well, there's other guys that could do that too.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I'm actually kind of surprised with these private missions that NASA isn't throwing one of their people into the mix. Garrett?
Yeah, to get more flight opportunities.
Yeah, why not? And in this way. But it's a nice opportunity. This is a kind of a first-time thing, right, where astronauts have a post-space flying career. that
Yeah.
this didn't exist when we were going through the program. So
Yeah, no, it's a
exciting.
brave new world, and
Yeah, very exciting.
It's pretty cool.
All right, I think it's time to go, isn't it?
It's 4:31 here. We've got 90 minutes here, so y'all, thank you so much. I was just being quiet. I was rapidly Googling things over here to try and verify facts and stuff like that. Got a couple of the tweets and videos and stuff we were talking about there. But Mike, Garrett, thank y'all so much for taking time out of your Sunday to hang out with us here.
No problem, Des. Always
Thanks,
fun
man.
hanging out with you, Matt. See you.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. Good catching. What did we used to sign off with two funny astronauts? Did we have
Y'all have like a
we
thing?
have like a sign off?
Did we have a sign? We had
We had something.
We had a
That's a,
I
y'all
don't
think
remember.
about that.
I can't remember.
Think
Just
about that
anyway,
for a second.
Thanks for tuning in,
See ya.
folks.
Real
Yeah.
quick,
All right, see you
we
guys.
do have stuff happening next month as well. We
Oh,
have
God.
Kids Week is happening next
Oh,
month,
yeah.
February 14th to 22nd, 27th, or 24th actually, out there in New
Jessica
York.
gonna be there.
I don't think we know the exact guest list yet. I know they're still
Yeah.
working on the guest list, but this is the imagery I was given. It's February 17th through the 24th in person in New York, and we're also going to bring some of that to y'all via live stream. It sounds like we may be out there doing that, but that's a thing. You know, we do these Astro live events here on the Intrepid channel once a month. It comes in around the third Thursday. If you haven't followed yet, whatever social media you're on, follow the museum social media. Go to the website, intrepidmuseum.org, to get more information about it. Or if you're in New York City, y'all were talking about this, like, you don't just go, oh, we'll go spend an hour at the Intrepid Museum. Like, get a good half day or something, a day over at the Intrepid Museum to check things out. But let's see, what's some other housekeeping? Oh, we said that at the beginning. Astro Live, supported through a NASA cooperative agreement, accorded to the New York Space Grant Consortium. Appreciate that. The shows don't just happen magically. And also, hey, some folks have been supporting Intrepid Museum here. We've been doing these shows as fundraisers, so you can toss a couple bucks into the hat and support Intrepid Museum's educational programming. And I've seen quite a few things come in there today. So thank y'all for doing that. We don't like spend time during the show like, oh, thank you for the $5. But it all goes into the hat so Intrepid can continue doing these sorts of things. For now, that's, I think, going to bring us to the end of the show. I want to talk to y'all after the show about a road trip where y'all visit all the shuttles and then make like comment on all the shuttles, and we like record you behind the scenes while you're doing that. That's a show to pitch, I think. But anyway,
You talking to me and Garrett?
I'm
Or are
talking to you and
people in
Garrett.
the
No, I'm
audience?
not talking to Chad. I'm talking to y'all. I want to follow y'all around and hear y'all stories. But thank y'all so much for
You're a brave young man.
Hey, we like to have fun and we like space stuff, and you two are definitely inspiring human beings who've given a lot of people a good, at least a good Sunday afternoon here, learning about your experiences with space and your thoughts on what's going on. That is the end of the show, though. We could just wave or whatever, and we will see y'all next time. Mike, Garrett, thank y'all so much.
Thanks very much. It's always great seeing you, and thanks, folks, for listening to Garrett and I catching up. And Dash, you did a great job. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks,
really,
Dash.
really
You're
well
awesome.
done.
Just clicking on stuff and Googling stuff, Mike.
You're the best. All right, man. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to roll the music here, and make sure you follow whatever channel you're watching. Check out the books as well. It's still pinned in chat. If you go up to the top of chat, you can get another link to Mike's book. Help the little number on my graph go up, the number of people that clicked on it. But for now, that's the end of this week's Intrepid Museum Astro Live, and we will see you nerds later. Thanks for watching, y'all. That's my sign-off. See you nerds later. So.
Oh, I thought you were talking about.
No, I'm talking to everybody. Show's over. Bye. We're turning the show off. Here we go.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Roger, planet. Water power supply! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange! Orange 25! Oh my god! Oh my god! Equalize! Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.